I'm joined by Elaine Ross. Elaine, is there one moment from your career or one specific investigation that you would look back on and go, that was the most surprising thing or that was the most interesting thing?
Probably talk about a recent one, actually. We heavily support Take 5 Week, and we have all been out to branches over the last week or so, trying to educate customers how to break the spell. And we actually had a 20 to 30 minute conversation with a victim who actually turned out to be the fraudster. So it was quite interesting to see that shift the other way. Normally the people that come into branch to say I've been a victim genuinely are victims. But no, this was the fraudster claiming to be the victim to then try to get further access to additional account details and get help to get money refunded and accounts corrected. So very brave of a fraudster to actually put themselves in a branch situation, which we don't see very often.
Wow, so face up in branch.
Face up in branch, talking to highly skilled fraud people, because we were all in there that week.
So they just got unlucky that you highly skilled fraud people happened to be in that branch when they went in there?
Yes.
Wow, okay, that is some story. So what was their angle was to try and get more data about the person they were defrauding?
Basically to try and get additional data to get some help and support and to rectify some activity that had happened on their account, which obviously wasn't, they weren't the victim.
Without going into specific detail, because obviously I understand this is a confidential matter, was there one thing that kind of led to you guys going, hang on a minute, there's something not right here?
Interestingly, to start with in branch, we believed we were talking to the victim. All security was passed, they had the correct documentation, but rightly so, we referred through to back office and got them to do a little bit more digging behind the scenes, still thinking that we were helping the victim. And it was only at that point that with additional data sources available, that we worked out that actually no, something just didn't add up.
You're a data analytics person. Data sources are your lifeblood.
That's my key.
Yes. Yeah. What are the most important sources that you look at in any sort of fraud situation?
The key one for us at the minute is what is that life cycle of a customer? So how do we prove that this is customer activity? We probably see how that's shifted over the years, especially when you go into the scams world. You have to understand a bit more about your customer. But to us, it's also trying to understand what else is out there from, I guess, before it gets to a financial institution. You know, can we get access to social media? Can we get access to phone records? What else is going on? And then you try to build up that overall picture of your customer. Because at that point in time, you've only got what's in front of you. So data sharing across the kind of financial services world and beyond is going to be absolutely key.
I'm super conscious that you guys, as the banks, you're the last 100 meters in a marathon. You know, so much of the time, all this has happened prior to your involvement. And yet your actual oversight of it is only that last bit. Often, I presume you don't actually have access to tons of what's happened before. How could that be better facilitated? Is there some way that would help you, that would mean that you would have access to more of that information that would help you build the whole picture?
Yeah, so we now hope that with the new fraud strategy, we hope that will help the big phrases left of the kill chain. So what information can we get that we can actually start to better data share between the telcos, between social media, etc. And we are definitely trying, and we hope now that with the fraud strategy, that will give everybody the power behind them to be able to better share, but in a safe way.
I've been asking this question of everybody. If there was a single switch you could flip, lever you could pull, change you could make, whether it's legislative or technological, that would make your job 100% easier tomorrow, what would it be?
Oh, interesting. It definitely would be, I guess, given the job I do, it would be all to do with data and being able to better share that data. So the way that fraud's evolved, card data has always been very strong. Payment data, not so strong. And that's what we really need to get everybody behind, to be able to get better payment data that flows through the systems, to be able to understand fully what's happening.
Interesting. Okay, so a more centralized maybe way of sharing data that would allow for better collaboration. Maybe we could talk a little bit about the way that you guys use data. So in terms of your oversight of any specific fraud, What's the sort of the most key piece of information? Is there a single thing, or is it more about the entire picture the whole time?
It's the entire picture. Depending on the type of fraud that's happening, you might never actually see something out of character until the first payment is made or until payment 25 is made. There will be fraudsters that will be out there that will try to do something quick and dirty, especially in a card space. You can see them just max out on a credit card very quickly. But no, in an overall elaborate scam, the customer could be the victim of romance scam. They are in a relationship with somebody, or they think they are, and payments could transfer and they look perfectly normal. So yeah, it depends, and that's what makes our jobs really difficult, is to try to work out, is this genuine activity? Could this be potential fraud? And where do we intervene? Because we don't want to impact customer journey, but at the same point, we need to get to the customer. You mentioned it earlier today. It's so emotive when you become a victim of fraud. So how do you find that sweet spot to be able to intervene at the right point to know that you can then prevent and save that customer from further harm?
That is what I've learned that is the trickiest thing, though, isn't it? Because
hard.
If you intervene too early, you may well actually be disrupting one of your customers' trust in the bank.
Exactly that. And that's the hard part, is do you actually have a suspicion at a point in time and wait but monitor? So we have the opportunity we can today put people on high risk alert so we can monitor, gather a little bit more information, or do we just want to have a conversation with them and see what they have to say?
What do you think is the most important thing in terms of actually breaking the spell with a customer behaviourally? Is it face-to-face? Is it just getting in at the right time? Kind of what is the most important thing about getting somebody out of that scam?
I think face-to-face is key, because when you can see eye contact, I think that helps build trust. But it's really hard, because if you are a customer that starts a journey in a digital world, you don't necessarily want to be sent to a branch to have to talk to somebody. That might not work. So it's trying to work out what is the right channel of choice for that customer and how do you then intervene. So a lot of it is education upfront. What can we be doing? And how do we then get specific tailored warnings in place that by channel the customer will be able to understand, and hopefully it allows them to realise that something might not be right.
Do you think there's any particular type of fraud that you guys find harder to disrupt than any other?
The hardest one for us at the minute is romance. Just because it's the customer does not want to believe that they're a victim. And a lot of the time it's a scam that could start as an investment. And we're talking to somebody about a payment and we've got no idea that this dating history has gone on in the background. And that's the bit that for me is the most complex. And it's also where, as an industry, we see the highest levels of repeat victims. Because when they fall foul for one romance scam, they tend to do it again because just their emotional state.
Loneliness.
They're vulnerable.
Yeah, whatever it might be. And I suppose then that's doubly powerful when it's intertwined with the investment element of things. If you're talking about romance baiting, the combined effects of sunk cost fallacy, a ton of money and time and emotion having gone into something, and then also the romance element of it. They might still think they're in love with that person.
Exactly. And a lot of the time we will see the person that they have been in a relationship with, that they'll hand off to another fraudster who will then come back and say, oh, so sorry that you've been this victim, and they'll try to put the customer right, but do it in a different way. So it's one gang behind the scenes, but the victim becomes a double victim.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.